Welcome to F1 Blogs, your one-stop shop for all things Formula One. Today we're diving deep into some predictions for the upcoming 2025 season. Sounds like you're already in the know and looking to get even more hyped.
Well, buckle up because these predictions suggest we're in for one of the most competitive and dramatic seasons in F1 history.
Oh, I love the sound of that.
Yeah.
We're basing this deep dive on some analysis from a highly respected Spanish F1 commentator, and they seem to be pretty fired up about the possibilities.
And for good reason. They argue that this season could have several drivers battling it out for the championship, which is always a recipe for excitement.
So let's break down who they see as the major players in this potential championship showdown. They've got the usual suspects, like Verstappen, of course.
Yeah.
But they also see Norris, LeClerc, and Russell as serious contenders.
Exactly. And they even suggest we could see a resurgence from Hamilton, especially now that he's with Ferrari. Just imagine the storylines if we get a Hamilton-Verstappen rematch, but this time with Hamilton in the red car, it would be an incredible clash of titans both on and off the track.
The historical implications alone would be insane. Speaking of rivalries, the commentator seems to think one of the most intense battles might actually be within McLaren, between Norris and Piastri.
They point to some interesting moments from last season to support this claim. Remember, Piastri's incredibly aggressive overtaking maneuver in Italy, or how Norris seemed to struggle with being assertive enough at times.
Yeah, I remember those moments vividly. It felt like Piastri was really pushing the limits and showing that he wasn't afraid to challenge his more experienced teammate. Do you think Piastri has what it takes to actually beat Norris this year?
It's definitely possible. Piastri is undeniably talented and hungry to prove himself, but Norris has that extra edge when it comes to racecraft. You know, that almost instinctive understanding of how to position the car, manage tires, and make split-second decisions during a race. He also has the experience of already going head-to-head with some of the best drivers in the world.
That's true. Norris has been in the pressure cooker of a championship fight before, but at the same time, I feel like Piastri's fearless driving style could really shake things up at McLaren. He doesn't seem intimidated by anyone.
That's what makes this rivalry so fascinating. You have this clash of styles and personalities, with Norris's more calculated approach going up against Piastri's raw aggression. It's going to be a thrilling battle to watch, and it could have a huge impact on the championship.
Absolutely. And while we're talking about potential shakeups, we have to address the big question mark hanging over Ferrari. The commentator seems unsure about what Ferrari really expects from Hamilton and how it will impact LeClerc.
Right. It's a bit of a gamble for both sides. Leclerc is incredibly fast, especially in qualifying, but he's also known to make some mistakes under pressure. Hamilton, on the other hand, is a master of consistency and race management. He knows how to extract the maximum from the car and minimize errors even under intense pressure.
So you've got Leclerc's raw speed versus Hamilton's experience and calculated approach. That's a fascinating dynamic, especially considering the psychological aspect of having a seven-time world champion as your teammate. Do you think Leclerc can handle that pressure?
That's the million-dollar question. Leclerc is undeniably talented, but we've seen him crack under pressure. Before, having Hamilton as a teammate will either push him to new heights or expose his vulnerabilities. The commentator even suggests a dark horse scenario where Hamilton's motivation and Ferrari support could push him back to the top, potentially eclipsing a Leclerc.
Now that would be a dramatic twist. Imagine Hamilton winning his 8th championship with Ferrari. It would be a storybook ending to his career.
It's definitely within the realm of possibility, but let's not forget the other crucial factor here. What does Ferrari want from Hamilton? Are they hoping he'll be a mentor to Leclerc and help him develop into a champion? Or do they see Hamilton as their primary title contender, potentially creating some internal friction?
It's a delicate balancing act for Ferrari. They need to find a way to harness the strengths of both drivers without creating a toxic environment.
And that's what makes the situation so intriguing. We have these incredibly talented drivers, a legendary team with a lot to prove and a whole lot of unknowns. It's a recipe for drama, excitement, and potentially some major fireworks.
I can't wait to see how it all plays out. Now let's shift our focus to Mercedes. They've got their own intriguing dynamic with Russell and the rookie Antonelli.
This is another situation where the commentator sees some potential for fireworks. They suggest that Toto Wolff, the team principal, is under immense pressure to prove that his gamble on promoting Antonelli was the right move.
That makes sense. Russell needs to deliver results and prove he can be a championship contender, while Antonelli needs to show that he deserves to be in that seat. And then you've got the looming presence of Verstappen as a potential Mercedes driver for 2026, adding another layer of complexity to the situation.
Right, and the commentator points out that Russell specifically has a lot to prove. He needs to show he can handle the pressure of being the team leader while fending off a hungry rookie all while knowing that Verstappen might be waiting in the wings. It's a high-stakes situation for everyone involved.
It's almost like a three-way chess match, with each driver trying to outmaneuver the others.
Rare.
Do you think this internal competition could actually benefit Mercedes in the long run?
It's certainly possible. Competition often brings out the best in people, and having two drivers pushing each other could force Mercedes to raise their game. But there's also the risk that this internal rivalry could create a toxic environment and hinder their progress.
It's a fine line between healthy competition and destructive conflict. Wolff is going to have his work cut out for him managing this dynamic effectively. Now, speaking of drivers under pressure, let's talk about Verstappen. The commentator acknowledges his dominance in 2024, but argues that 2025 will be a much tougher test for him, especially without the dominant Red Bull car he had last year.
They believe that this season will truly test Verstappen's mettle. He won't be able to rely on his car's superiority to win races. He'll need to be even more calculated and patient, especially if he wants to attract the attention of a team like Mercedes.
They even hint that Verstappen's driving style, which has been criticized at times for being overly aggressive, will be under more scrutiny this year. It sounds like he's going to need to evolve his approach and become a more complete driver to stay on top.
Absolutely. This season will reveal whether Verstappen can adapt and refine his skills, or if he's simply a product of a dominant car. It's a crucial year for him, both in terms of defending his championship and proving his worth to potential future employers.
Okay, so we've got potential fireworks at McLaren, Ferrari, and Mercedes, plus a reigning champion facing his biggest challenge yet. Is there anyone else we should be keeping an eye on this season?
Absolutely. We have a couple of other fascinating storylines to dive into, including Carlos Sainz's move to Williams and Fernando Alonso's potential final chapter with Aston Martin. Sainz's move to Williams is particularly interesting. After a tough couple of years, he's looking for a fresh start, a chance to remind everyone what he's capable of.
Yeah, this isn't just a step down for him. It's a chance to potentially become the leader of a team, shaping their development and mentoring younger drivers.
The commentator sees this as a perfect opportunity for Sainz to rediscover that aggressive driving style that got somewhat overshadowed during his time at Ferrari at Williams. Without the intense pressure of a top team, he can focus on rebuilding his confidence and driving with a bit more freedom.
It's almost like a hero's journey, right? Sainz facing adversity, finding himself at a smaller team, and then hopefully using that experience to rise back to the top. Could this be the making of Sainz as a true team leader, not just a fast driver?
It's certainly a possibility. And while Sainz is looking to rebuild, Fernando Alonso is embarking on what could be his final chapter in F1 with Aston Martin. The commentator advises Alonso to be patient, though, as they believe the real Aston Martin revolution won't happen until 2026, when Adrian Newey's influence is fully realized.
But isn't Alonso known for his impatience? Could that lead to some friction within Aston Martin if the results don't come quickly enough?
That's a great point. Alonso is a fierce competitor, and he wants to win now. But this year is about laying the groundwork for future success, consolidating their position, and gathering data for Newey's 2026 car.
So essentially, 2025 is a building year for Aston Martin, a chance to show they're serious about becoming a top team, but that doesn't mean they can't snag a few podiums along the way, right?
Exactly. The commentator predicts we could see some breakthrough moments from Aston Martin, especially if they can capitalize on those chaotic races where anything can happen. They also highlight the importance of Aston Martin developing a strong team unit with clear hierarchies and effective strategies.
It's not just about having a fast car and a talented driver. It's about having a team that works together seamlessly.
Absolutely. And speaking of teams, the commentator also had some interesting thoughts about Red Bull's driver lineup. They're not convinced that Liam Lawson will challenge Verstappen for the top spot this year.
Yeah, they seem to think Lawson's primary role is to support Verstappen and learn from the best. But wouldn't having a more competitive teammate push Verstappen even further, potentially leading to better results for Red Bull in the long run?
That's a valid argument. However, it seems Red Bull is prioritizing stability and continuity as they transition to the new engine regulations in 2026. Having a clear team leader, especially one as dominant as Verstappen, could be a key advantage during that period of transition.
So for Lawson, this year is all about learning the ropes, proving he's worthy of a Red Bull seat, and maybe stealing a podium or two along the way.
Yeah.
But the real pressure is on Verstappen, right? The commentator seems to think this season will be a crucial test for him.
Yes, they've dubbed this season Verstappen's difficult. Yet it's like he's conquered the mountain, but now he has to navigate a dense forest. He can't just rely on brute force anymore. He needs to be smarter, more calculated, and avoid making those rash decisions that have sometimes landed him in trouble.
It sounds like Verstappen needs to evolve his approach and become a more complete driver if he wants to stay on top, especially with all these hungry young drivers snapping at his heels.
Exactly. He can't simply rely on his raw speed and aggression. He needs to demonstrate greater racecraft, better tire management skills, and a more mature approach to wheel-to-wheel combat.
And let's not forget the mental game, with Mercedes potentially lurking in the background as a future option. Verstappen needs to stay focused and perform consistently.
The commentator believes that Verstappen's performance this year could be a deciding factor in whether or not he makes a move to Mercedes in 2026. If he can prove he can win without a dominant car, he'll be even more desirable to a team like Mercedes.
This is getting intense.
Yeah.
We've got so many intriguing storylines to follow, and it seems like every race could have major implications for the championship. What about the Spanish Grand Prix specifically? The commentators seem particularly excited about that race.
Yes, the Spanish Grand Prix. The commentator believes this race could be a major turning point in the season for a couple of key reasons. First, there are new regulations coming into play regarding front wing flexibility, and teams that have mastered these rules could see a sudden jump in performance.
So it's almost like a mini reset in the middle of the season, giving some teams a chance to catch up or even leapfrog ahead.
Exactly. And second, many teams are expected to bring significant upgrades to their cars for the Spanish Grand Prix. It's early enough in the season to make a real impact on the championship, but late enough that teams have had time to analyze data and address any weaknesses.
So we could see a shakeup in the pecking order after Spain. Maybe teams like McLaren or Alpine could make a big move up the grid.
That's definitely a possibility. The commentator specifically mentioned those teams as having strong development potential. With the right upgrades and a bit of luck, they could become serious contenders.
Now let's zoom out a bit and look at the bigger picture. It feels like this season is shaping up to be a battle between the old guard and the new generation of drivers.
You're right. You have established champions like Verstappen and Hamilton trying to maintain their dominance, while young guns like Norris, LeClerc, and Russell are pushing hard to claim their place at the top. It's a clash of styles, personalities, and ambitions that could make for some epic battles on the track.
And what's fascinating is how interconnected all these storylines are. Each driver's performance could influence another's, and these individual battles could ultimately determine the fate of the championship.
It's a giant game of chess with every move having consequences.
And we're just waiting to see who makes the right moves and who gets checkmated. It really feels like we're on the verge of like a seismic shift in Formula One. But before we get too carried away with predictions, let's take a step back and appreciate the human element of this sport.
That's a great point. The commentator spent a lot of time talking about the psychological battles that will be taking place this season. It's not just about having the fastest car. It's about mental fortitude, strategic thinking, and the ability to adapt to unexpected challenges.
Exactly. They highlighted how drivers like Norris and LeClerc need to overcome mental hurdles, how Verstappen needs to stay calm under pressure, and how SAINZ needs to rebuild his confidence. It's like every driver has their own personal Everest to climb this season.
And it's not just the drivers who are under pressure. Team principals like Toto Wolff at Mercedes and Christian Horner at Red Bull also have a lot riding on their decisions this season. Their management styles and strategic calls could have a ripple effect throughout the entire championship.
It's a high-stakes game for everyone involved, and I think that's what makes Formula One so compelling.
Oh.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm curious to hear your final thoughts. What are you most excited to see unfold this season?
For me, it's the potential for a changing of the guard. We've had Verstappen at the top for a while now, but the competition is catching up fast. Could this be the year a new generation of drivers like Norris or LeClerc finally breaks through and claims the crown? Or will experience and cunning prevail with veterans like Hamilton and Alonso, proving that they still have what it takes to win?
I'm with you on that. I'm also excited to see how the team dynamics play out. Will Ferrari be able to manage the LeClerc-Hamilton pairing effectively? Can Mercedes regain their dominance with their new driver lineup? And will Red Bull continue their winning streak with Verstappen at the helm?
It's going to be a season full of twists and turns, that's for sure. And who knows, maybe we'll even see some unexpected surprises along the way. A dark horse emerging from the midfield, a rookie exceeding all expectations, or a veteran pulling off a stunning comeback.
That's the beauty of Formula One. You just never know what's going to happen next. It's a sport that keeps you on the edge of your seat, constantly guessing and reevaluating your predictions.
Well said. I think we've covered just about everything in this deep dive. We've dissected the predictions, analyzed the rivalries, and explored the potential for a truly historic Formula One season. And hopefully this has given you a deeper understanding of the key players, the major storylines, and the things to watch out for as the season unfolds.
Exactly. So as the lights go out and the engines roar to life for the first race of the season, remember to keep these insights in mind. They might just give you an edge in your predictions and help you appreciate the intricacies of this incredible sport.
And if you're looking for even more in-depth analysis, race previews, and behind-the-scenes insights throughout the season, don't forget to subscribe to F1 Blogs, your ultimate guide to the world of Formula One.
We'll be here all season long, breaking down the action, analyzing the strategies, and celebrating the triumphs, and maybe a few heartbreaks along the way. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you at the track.